Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to be taking a look at a Strix motherboard. Now that might not seem so weird because we've had Strix motherboards already, and pulling it off the shelf I can show you the box for the Strix X99 gaming. Well, there's now Strix motherboards available on the 1151 socket. We've also got the new Z270 chipset because obviously this is part of my Kaby Lake madness. Launched too many videos in one day. Whoever's idea that was, I will hunt them down. So yes, so we've now got Strix motherboards, and the Strix motherboards are taking the place of the older, lower end Asus motherboards. So like, for argument's sake, the Ranger, that would be the replacement for the Ranger is the 270F gaming. And then you would have had, amazingly, the Hero and the Hero Alpha above the Ranger before. But the Hero is still going to be part of the ROG range, because we have got one of those here. Hero is still going to be part of the ROG range. But the pricing is a little bit different. So the Hero is actually going to be 250 quid. Although technically, because of an Intel NDA, I'm not meant to tell you about prices until the 5th, because that's when the retailers can talk about it. But how the hell do they expect me to be able to make motherboard reviews when the dates are different? What am I meant to do? Like, launch the video? Oh, I don't know, Intel, pff, yeah, whatever. So, okay, well, we might as well put this up here because we've got room. All right, so the 270F, which is like the Ranger replacement, is going to come in at around 170, and then you've got the 270E, it's going to come in around the £200 mark. Now, the best way I can explain these is you are still going to have like a formula in the ROG range, but for the Strix range, you've got the formula here, and that's pretty much what the F stands for, and then you've kind of got the extreme of the Strix range, which is the E. Or at least that's the way they're explaining it, because there is an M-ATX board, which I'm looking for, but I think it's in the actual office rather than in the filming room. They've got the 270G available as well, which is the Gene, and that is the M-ATX one. So Strix is a whole new kind of range for Asus, or at least these Strix motherboards. And it means they've got a completely separate new lot of BIOS engineers as well, because you've got Prime, you've got Tough, you've got Strix, and then you've got the main ROG ones, and they've all got their own division of BIOS teams. Now, the Strix X99, when that first came out, it did take till about 0801 for the BIOS to really make sense and be, you know, 0801 with that one was when that one landed. It made the board go from being all right to, oh my god, this is now epic and everything's working. Well, we've been testing the boards with these, and I ended up testing these just before the 0701 BIOS came out. And the 0701 BIOS did make a tidy change with these, although I'm testing on the one before that, which would have been the 0604. So it's all kind of complicated, and I can't keep going back to retest, because for me to do a stock and overclock set of tests on one board is about a couple of days. So when you add that into that, it's suddenly 4 days, maybe 5 days, depending on how well the overclock's going. I might have been able to have squeezed it out in 3 and a bit, maybe, if I'd stayed up really late. But it's just a lot of work to go through, because I test with a lot of different memory as well. The sticker come off! No, this is not acceptable. The reason why this is not acceptable is Asus are pretty damn good, and they sent me the 001 boards. So essentially what that means is on the boards we get, there's a number on them, and for the UK ones I got the first ones. Yes. Yeah, it makes me feel good. It's probably just a sticker they send me to shut me up. Ha! Anyway, so okay, so the contents on the box is the same for both of them. You get your back plate, which is one with, oh no, look! They do have the little spangly kind of clippy things on the back plate. I've got a passion to hate these now. That actually seems a bit woo for a board this price. Anyway, inside the box you also get a coaster. It's just a cardboard one. You get some stickers so that you can label the cables that you've got on the back, maybe your SATA cables or even other ones, doesn't really matter. Then you get some more stickers, Strixy and ROG sort of stickers. These round ones in the middle here, these can go on your fan, so when your fan spin, the ROG eye spins. You do get your driver CD and your manual and stuff. You also do get a code to for 20% off cable mod cables. Could be quite handy. Don't forget you can use that in the configurator and have custom lengths and custom colours and all that sort of stuff as well. You'll see the RGB connector that on the board and a bit later on. You do get an extension for that. It's 50 centimetres long. You do get a high bandwidth ROG SLI bridge as well. It just means it's got 2 tabs on it rather than 1. Then you get some SATA cables, the screws that you're going to need if you do decide to use the 3D printing stuff, and then you get some more screws which are actually exactly the same for the 2 M.2s. Okay, so we've got this boards side by side, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up a quick graphic to show you the stuff that's on the board. You can have a good look around it, absorb it, because this is the one for the F, and now I'm going to bring you the one up ever so quickly for the E. Can you tell the difference? What about if I put it back again? And now the E again. See the difference? What about the F? Now back to the E again. Can you tell the difference? Yeah, without looking really carefully you won't be able to. So I bring the little red thing up just so that you can see it, it highlights it. Yeah, that's the difference. So if we go back to the actual boards themselves, if we turn them around sideways, the difference is one of them has got wireless and Bluetooth and the other one doesn't. But when you do look inside, it's not like there is a port or anything in there, so you could retrofit it later. It's literally just not there at all. And then the other difference is, when we spin it round, the E has the USB 3.1 on the front, and then the F just doesn't. It's literally just not there. So it's not like there's like a pin out for it or anything like that either. So when we look down the back, it's just, the stuff's just not there, basically. So they are very similar, but also, you know, relatively different. But normally when we go from, and it was explained to me by Asus to think of them like the Formula and the Extreme. There's no power differences or anything like that. There's no lighting differences, because I can show you some pictures of the lighting and you might be a little bit surprised in that, you know, it flicks through, it does look kind of nice, is all kind of cool. The lighting on the board is just here on this. There's nothing in the actual chipset itself. There's in the MOSFET heatsinks, there's nothing in the chipset. The only other lighting options that you've got, and it's in the same place on both boards, and that is here and here, and that's your Aura out header. Now we do kind of need to remember and give them props for it, because they were the first people to put RGB headers on boards, and it does mean that you can control it all in with the software and everything as well. When we have a quick steam around the board though, you get a couple of CPU headers up here for fans. So you've got CPU fan and CPU optional. Over here you've got chassis fan 1. Then when we come down the bottom of the board here, you've got chassis fan 2. And up here you've got the high amp fan, and you have the IO pump fan. There's no specific dedicated water pump fan on these or anything, as you might have seen on the ROG boards if you've watched those. You do get 2 M.2s, which is standard for the Z270 chipset. Don't forget, this is the number 1. If you use the second one, then you will be stealing the lanes or borrowing the lanes from SATA 5 and 6, and that is just to make sure that they get the full PCI Express 3 times 4 bandwidth. It doesn't mean that there's PCI Express 3 times 4 in this. It just uses the bandwidth that these would have used to fill the rest of this up. You do get jack caps on the audio, and you've got the Supreme Effects on here again. You do get the nice I/O shield. It's plastic, but it does nice, and like I said, underneath you can see the RGB thing. While we are around the back, don't forget on the Extreme you will have wireless here, but on the rest of it matches for both. And then you've got USB 3.1 around the back here, so you've got a C and an A, DisplayPort HDMI, DVI, a PS2 for older mice and keyboards, 4 USB 3s, then you've got gigabit Ethernet up here, and then you've got your audio out. When it comes round to USB 3 for the front panel, that is here, and you do get 2 USB 2s as well, which is kind of handy. If you want to get the extra fan card add-on thing that you can, that plugs in there. So there's, you know, it's an all right board. There is plenty on there. Okie dokie, so I did talk to you about the BIOS engineers and it being a relatively new BIOS team. With the pre-release BIOS that I had, it did kind of show, because I did have some early kind of issues, but it did progressively get better. Now I'm only telling you this because I think I should, because by the time it gets to you, the problems are already going to be ironed out. The 0701 was already, you know, it did fix a few of the little glitches and problems that I was having. By the time we get to an 0801, it will more than likely be absolutely spot on. One of the reasons why I did say that I was having a few little issues was I was expecting a little bit more out of the memory on this, and it was a little bit picky. That is pretty much down to the fact that they were doing, because they do refine the BIOS to work better with the XMP for certain memory chips, and what they end up doing is they go through the kits making sure they work absolutely fine, which is why, you know, sometimes when memory manufacturers change where they actually get the memory chips from, it can create havoc with BIOSes, as we've seen in the past. But anyway, so I did have some troubles getting really high-speed memory running on these boards. When you'll see the performance results, didn't really make a lot of difference. But when I'm trying to pick between boards that there's like, say for argument's sake with Cinebench, it might have been the difference between like 10.2 and 10.7. It might have been the difference, you know what I mean? It literally was within a tenth. And some of them, the gaps were even narrower. So when I'm really pushing the overclocks and looking for stability and how good the load line calibration is and all of that sort of stuff, there's not a lot that I've got to be able to tell between. So the real high-speed memory, which is what a lot of these are kind of leaning towards, is a good way for me to do it. I did still manage to get a 5.1 gigahertz overclock. I did, in the end, manage to get 3866 memory running. The reason why I'm kind of giving them a bit of grief about it, though, is because the first board that I tested was a Z270E prime board, and that is what I reviewed the CPUs on. Now, the BIOS on those has always been renowned because I've used those so early in the past, and they've never particularly let me down. And it's one of the reasons why I always go back to them. Asus are like, you want a prime board? And I'm always like, yes, I want the prime, because they help. They really do, especially when I'm reviewing stuff weeks and weeks ahead of time, and I haven't got time, especially like over Christmas and New Year and stuff. But anyway, so it was a bit of effort to get 3866 running. The 0701 BIOS that came out, I didn't get to test it on this, but I got it on there. It did make things a bit better, but they were still being a little bit funny, where they weren't training the system agent voltages in properly and the VCCIO voltages. It literally wasn't doing anything with those, and I was having to go in and manually set it. I have let Asus know, I've informed them about it. They've basically come back to me and said, yes, that's because the memory kit that you're using hasn't been through all the rigmarole yet, so the board doesn't know what to do with the rest of it, which is fair enough. But that is why I'm also saying to you, by the time you get your board, it should be sorted. Check the BIOS that it's on when it comes. Then go to the Asus website, see if there's a newer one. If there is, download it, get it on your board. I promise you, it will make a difference, especially if you don't know what you're doing in the BIOS with volts and stuff like I am. If you're running lower speed memory, that's fine. But I personally would say, if you're going to buy something like this, unless you've already got DDR4 memory, I would personally say 2800 megahertz, I would personally say would be the lowest I would want to go, or even advise. If someone wanted me to build them a system and I was using one of these, I would go 2800 as an absolute minimum. When I did my stock tests, I used 3200 megahertz Corsair LPX memory, and all I did was go in and enable XMP. So that's the kind of level that I'm testing at. And then when I went on to my overclock tests, I actually ended up dropping 4266 megahertz memory in. And then what I do is I turn it back until I can get the board to play ball. it was a lot of effort on this. Now, it shouldn't be a lot of effort. I know you're thinking, oh, it's not going to work with 4266. It doesn't work that way. We put the 4266 in, so we know that the memory is absolutely capable. And then what we do is we turn the settings back to find out where the board is happy. And we balance that out with memory timings and the volts on the board and stuff like that. And like I said, this 3866, it was quite happy with in the end once I got in there and I worked out. But it was just trying to push past that point. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't that happy about it. Anyway, so it's a bit of a funny one, yes, but 5.1 gigahertz is brilliant. We've had some boards that have come through. I couldn't even go past 5. So we got 5.1. It was really happy with 5.1 as well. It did quite well in the tests with the 3866 as well. But I do think, and it was kind of frustration, and that's why it's all coming out, I do think there's more to come from these when the BIOS engineers do get to grips with it and they do get it sorted out. Now, Asus would probably prefer I don't tell you about all the pre-release stuff that we go through and, oh, why did you tell them it's not doing this when they're never going to get that BIOS? That's my job. But also, and this is to be very, very crystal clear about it, when they do fix it, you will know about it because you'll be like, I didn't have any of those problems. They've obviously fixed it. Or they're going to hear me going on about it in the video and go, he said that on what? Launch day? And they will fix it quicker. Win-win. Apart from when I get the earache. But anyway, so that's about my usage with the boards and all that kind of stuff. If you're wondering why we've not got them in a system and it's just sat beside me on like this, what I ended up doing is I tested all of my boards one after another one. And that is why when I show you these graphs, it's got all of the tests in. So we pretty much did all the testing, then made the graphs, and now I'm coming back to do the reviews. Now I've got the information, because it just meant that with all the launch boards that I had to do, rather than having one review with 2 boards in and the second review with 3 boards in, every review that we've done has had a really good meaty list that we can tell the difference between the boards in certain applications and stresses. So that's why. Right, so 3D Mark, you can see here, this is what I mean. It's at the top, and it actually went above the Maximus 9s as well. So you can see the E and the F both at the top. Then we go on to Cinebench 11.5. You can straight away see again the E and the F are at the top. I've put those out first because they're kind of glory tests, and then it kind of fits back in to where we would not necessarily expect them to be. But the next one, which is Geekbench, the Maximus 9s are at the top, and then the Strixes are underneath. PC Mark 7 was the same. The Maximus Formula was above. You can see the 2 Strixes underneath, but actually at the top of this graph, it was the Gigabyte Gaming 7. Asus are going to flip the loops that I put that in this video. Did I do it on purpose? Yes. And then the other graph is the SciSoft Sandra stuff. We use a lot of the SciSoft ones. This is not the only one. And then you can see the formulas are at the top, the Maximus 9s are at the top, and then the Strixes are underneath. If you're thinking about any more tests and you're like, where's the rest, Tom? You can't have just done that. You're right, I can't have just done that. There are loads more tests on the OC3D website that you can go and see, and I'll put the links for these ones underneath. I'll put the link for the actual Kaby Lake 7700K and the i5 7600K. You can go and have a look at those reviews as well. But we just put some here, and then if you're actually interested in the results, you can go and have a look at the reviews on the website. It's like 22 pages long, the review. I think we do like 14 or 16 tests now, which we do in both stock and overclocks. And it may be 16 pages long, but some of the tests, like Sandra, for example, is 7 different tests. The game tests, we're now doing Gears of War, we're doing Warhammer, and we're doing Rise of the Tomb Raider in DirectX 11 and DirectX 12. So we've changed some of the games up for you as well. So we've tweaked a few things. We've got X265 now running because we still couldn't get X264 benchmark running on Windows 10. Even with the guide, we've never been able to get that running properly. So we have changed, and we've got a lot of the tests retweaked and rejigged to bring some more stuff in. We're even using the Asus Real benchmark. Okay then, on to the conclusion. Yeah, boy, whatever. Right, so on to the conclusion. Now I'm going to say the award first and then I'll explain everything why. And the award that I'm going to give them both is the OC3D Approved Award. And it's going to come up and it's going to look gold. It's not gold. Basically, OC3D Approved is, I think it's worthy of being on your shortlist. I don't think either of them particularly stand out as being class leading enough to be at the top of the shortlist, but I do think that you should, when you're thinking about speccing up your rig, I do think that they're worth you thinking to yourself, you know, do I want this? Do I want that? Now, they are very strong motherboards. That's without a doubt. The BIOS is definitely going to get better, and there are going to be things on here that you're going to find kind of cool. But at the same time, there's certain things about it I don't think are like amazing either. So I'm going to explain why, and this is the bit where Asus are going to probably end up going, oh, what? But this one is 177 quid. It's going to be about 170 quid, sorry, 175 pound. And this one is going to be 200 quid. And the difference is Wi-Fi and a USB 3.1 port. To be honest with you, with the wireless, 25 quid seems a little bit expensive, but if you want wireless, then obviously this is the one that you're going to want to go for. I think it's a bit of a penis move to have only put the USB 3.1 on this one though, because a lot of us, I know people do use wireless and that's fine, and wireless routers have got so much better and has got, you know, there has been a lot less latency and stuff, but there are a lot of us out there that still do like to use a cable. And if you've got a cable, and that means you can get this one and you can save the money, that then means that you're not going to get the USB 3.1 for your case. Now, it might not necessarily matter for a lot of people, and you can just save the money, get this one. Lovely. I just think that it probably should have been on both. The other thing that with this, I'm not particularly that enthused about, is I know we've got the two RGB headers, so you can flood your case with light in that way if you want. But I think that just the light up here on this is a bit limp-wristed. And we know Asus can do better. I think really, I mean, we're going to call this the Strix tick. I think there should have been another Strix tick on the bottom of this chipset, just to give a little bit of light down the bottom here, or lit the flipping heatsink up or something. I do just think there should have been something else down here. Now, if you don't like lights, ignore me, tune out, this isn't for you. But if you do like lights and you come in and you're like, oh, all right, you've then got two choices, and I would be one of you. You either make do with the RGB ports, and you make do with the RGB ports, and you know that Asus are harping on about the Asus ecosystem, where they say that you can not only have your RGB here lit up, but you can also link it up to these, and then you can also link it up with their ecosystem, which is like the ROG Sparta mouse. And now there's also the ROG Claymore keyboard, and the boards will all work and everything with this. There isn't a headset at the moment. I've not heard of an RGB headset on the horizon either. But, deep breath, I'm still going. Stay with me. But if you don't want the ROG Claymore, you've got a Corsair keyboard. They're going to hate me for saying that. You don't want this, you've got a different RGB mouse. Then you're left with this. You're thinking about, you would rather have a little bit more light on your motherboard rather than lighting up the entire case. You'd like it nice and subtle, or you'd rather, yeah, you just want it a little bit more light on your motherboard. We'll leave it at that. If you want more light on your motherboard and this isn't enough light for you, I'm now going to tell you to go and buy one of the other brands. Straight up. This isn't the board for you if you want more light on the board, because that's it. There's no other options. I know I don't think it's enough. And that's only enough because everybody else seems to go Christmas tree. Now, Asus didn't need to go Christmas tree. I do think it would have been nice with some nice, subtle, classy lighting, but they just didn't decide to with this. And do you want me to tell you how much you have to pay if you want more lights on your motherboard in the Asus range this time around? £350, because you have to go and buy the ROG Formula board. And the price that I've heard is going to be 354 quid. I think that is insane. Absolutely insane. To be honest with you, even if the Extreme was the board with a few extra lights and the extra bits and bobs around here, I could live with it. But for it to have been missed out on both of them, I genuinely think that with this, there will be people out there that will decide, nope, nope. And I would agree, So they are great performing boards. They do look nice. If you do want to have them lit up, you are going to have to use the other bits and bobs on them as well. And if you're going to buy into the whole motherboard and all that kind of stuff, then you'll love it. It's not going to be a problem. The RGB feature on them is nice. Like I said, they were the first ones to do it. There is a lot of the Aura support as well, and they are shouting about the Aura Sync now, which is like that whole big ecosystem kind of thing. But if you're not, I'm not going to say it again, but I am going to say it again. If you're not going to be buying Asus keyboards and mice and you're already invested in other brands, which let's face it, you probably are already invested in other brands because they took 18 months to bring the Claymore out. So a lot of other people have already got other keyboards. It's kind of a bit of a woo one, and that is why, shockingly, even though it's a new range, they're all, you know, big and pushing it, and they want it to all be nice, they are pretty good, but the problem is, so are the others. And so, you know, I do feel myself very torn on this one, and what I'm trying to do is I've got the people on one hand that are, or one shoulder, that are going to want the lights, and they've already got other kit, and then you've got the other people on my shoulder, which are the Asus fanboys. So I'm trying to be as honest as I possibly can do with all of you, because at the end of the day, I don't care which ones you buy. I also don't make any money out of which ones you buy, because I don't make enough money anyway. So really, it's going to come down to what you want. I know system integrators are going to use these, and they're at that price point in the market where they're accessible to most people. I just think for that 200 quid, it wouldn't have hurt that much to have added a few more lights in and stuff. And I genuinely believe it would have helped sell more boards. So I'm also kind of frustrated for them as well, because I don't know, part of me thinks it's a bit lazy. So, you know, I don't know, I'll leave it with you. Let me know what you think underneath. Did they need more lights? Would you have wanted the lights? Do you not care and you just care about performance? Because that's the other thing that we kind of do need to drive home, is that despite I've had the BIOS problems and we've done this and we've done that and I don't like the lights, they did perform really well, to the point where, like I said, they were even trading places with the bigger brothers of the Hero, so the Formula and the Code. They were having good old family fisticuff pumps out with that. So, I don't know, maybe I'm playing too much on the aesthetics, but that just seems to be the way the market's going. I can pretty much assume now, within about 8 months, there'll be another board. I don't know whether they'll call it this. There'll be a Strix something. I guarantee you it will come in at about 225 quid and it will be covered in lights. That's a bit of a guess. I'm going to laugh my little socks off if they do it though. But anyway, can we call it the TTL edition and make it white? Reckon we can do that? I don't think they ever would. Anyway, right. So this has been Tiny Tom Logan with a very honest review that I'm probably likely to get a lot of earache for. But, you know, that's just where I am. I've been honest about it. They've got the performance. They've got this. I just think at least that one is a little bit lazy on the kind of bling front. Anyway, this has been Tiny Tom Logan. This has been too many videos. This is far too late, and yes, I need to go. Yes, Henny Murphy. Yes, gone. Whoo!